Hey, friends, welcome back to the Called to Lead podcast. So, today's episode is another one where I'm going to be spilling the tea, if you will, on all of my actual business numbers for what my Seint team and personal business looked like in February. So, if you're listening to this in March when I'm posting it, or if you're listening to this years down the road, my goal with doing this is essentially just to be really transparent about what the actual business of a top leader in a network marketing company looks like, specifically in going through a season of hopefully renewal, which has all been a part of my word of the year, which is renewal, tied to both Romans 12:2 and my mentor Brett Blake's book, Renewal for Field Leaders. So if you're confused and you're just listening to this as your first episode, definitely go catch back up on some of the other ones and maybe it'll make a little more sense. But regardless, if you want to kind of get the scoop on what my business looks like in February, I'm going to be sharing all of the details with you in today's episode. So let's dive in. Okay, so before we dive into the actual numbers, I want to make sure that I'm really clear that I want you to reference the Seint income disclosure statement that is linked in the show notes to really kind of understand what, everything, basically like to keep it legit and legal over here, okay? Because the results of my business as an artist 9, number one, are not typical. So the goal of this isn't to, say like, oh, this can be you. I mean, I guess, yes, it can, but that's not what I'm trying to say. Like, it takes years of hard work. This is just me being transparent with you. And my goal isn't to try to get anything out of you. It's really just to help equip, inspire, and encourage you. But I want to make sure that I point out that sharing the income disclosure statement and the fact that results are not typical, the ones that I'm going to share, and that it has been 7 amazing but hard years of work to kind of get to where the business is now. So I want to preface before I get into the actual numbers with that important statement. All right, so let's dive into my actual February numbers. So if this is the first episode that you've heard with me doing what I'm calling my renewal recap, I break my month down, and this is something that you can do as well for your team and for your personal business using an acronym called WORK, WORK. And the W stands for the wins from the previous month or season or year. The O stands for opportunities for growth. So these are the things that maybe weren't so great, that instead of, focusing on the negative, we are going to be focusing on the fact that that is an opportunity for us to put our focus and be able to hopefully improve for the future. Then the R stands for recognition. And because this is kind of my team page, I have a pretty big team. It's about 4,500 teamies, as you'll see. And so this is my way of, kind of shouting out and sharing some amazing things from the gals on my team from the previous month. And so recognition is the R. And then finally, the K is the KPIs, or the key performance indicators, or the actual data of my business that I track each and every month. And these are the things that I recommend you track as well. So let's dive in without further ado to the work from February. So overall, before I dive in, let me just say February was a mix of highs and lows, meaning there was so much goodness. I think I said this in a recent podcast that honestly, I don't know that I've ever been more motivated or inspired or fired up in my business. However, having said that, it's not that February's actual numbers were that amazing. So I'll share the specifics of it as we go. But one of the big principles that I realized when it comes to February and what that looked like is the principle of sowing and reaping. And so this is a biblical principle, but really what it means is just, you reap what you sow. And a lot of times it takes time for the seeds that you plant to grow and come to fruition. And I honestly feel like that's what February was for me. It was a lot of seed planting when it comes to my team, even my personal business, and really spending my time and energy focusing on the long game. And I know that that will pay off in the long term. And honestly, even in the short term, March is actually shaping up to be a pretty awesome month, I think, so far. So lots of wins to report in the next renewal recap. But February, you'll see there's some definite ups and downs. So that's one of the reasons I love this acronym, is it'll focus on both. So for the W, which are the wins from February. So I always love to start with the positive, right? Optimist to a fault here. But one of the things I'm so excited about that we kicked off in February is my mentor, Sarah Davies, and I, after getting some feedback from our team and our leaders as as we've allowed them to kind of soar and create independent cultures and independent teams and things like that, which is the goal when you reach the level of where we are in business, it has allowed us, or it has unfortunately kind of, I guess, created this disconnect where we have teamies on our team who don't even know who we are. And because neither of us really are focused on growing a social media following. In fact, Sarah, as I always say, has more people on her team than she has followers on Instagram, which I think is actually pretty cool and a testament to the way she runs her business, which is all in the one-to-one connections. But because of that, people aren't necessarily seeing our faces in a lot of places. We don't have a team Facebook group. We don't have, these outside of my podcast, we don't have like a weekly or a way to train the teams. So we put our heads together. We also kind of went back to basics in the business of what we know works. And we brought back two things for our teams that we kicked off in February. And one is something that we learned years ago, like probably in maybe even my first year of business, from another leader in Unique. Her name is Whitney Husband. And I've actually invited her to be on this podcast. And she said yes, but we haven't gotten it on the schedule yet. So I need to follow back up with her. But Whitney Husband is a top leader at Unique and has been for like many, many years. I think she is like the top leader over there. But she built her business by doing something called Think Pink, which if you're a Unique distributor or have ever been in Unique, you'll probably know what that is. I had to do digging to figure out what that is, but it's essentially focusing on the foundation rank of your business. And for us at Seint, that's Artist 3. So that's the first leadership level rank. And that's what our entire compensation plan is built on. And I realize, as I've kind of mentioned here lately, that we've sort of lost sight as a leadership team on really focusing on helping our new distributors. And we had a ton, if you listen to January, we had, I think, 450 something new distributors enrolled in January alone. So for those that have gotten their business started and want to keep that momentum going, the next step for them is Artist 3. So we decided to bring back this, we used to call it Roadmap to Top Hacker when that was what the rank was called. I don't know that we've even done it since Seint or Mascara was rebranded to Seint, which was, in 2020. So yeah, it's been too long since we've done something like this. So we brought it back. We themed it around our reunion, which is our annual conference, which will be this fall in Atlanta, and it's Wizard of Oz themed, called Over the Rainbow. So we're calling the training Follow the Yellow Brick Road, Artist 3 and Beyond. And I kind of just took the downloads, the inspiration, I feel like, as always, are from the Lord when it's that clear to me. And we put together the framework where we handpicked the emerging leaders and the leaders on our team who've reached that Artist 3 plus and who are seeing results in their business right now in the last few months. Whether they're new, whether they've been here for a minute, they're the ones that are doing the things and they're seeing the fruit. Again, they're reaping what they're sowing, right? And so we invited them to train Monday through Friday in a Facebook group. We also shared the announcements, or still sharing the announcements in a Telegram thread. And so anyway, I won't go into all the details of it unless you want me to do a whole episode on it. And if so, let me know, because it's definitely a great concept that, again, we learned from another leader that we have implemented. And honestly, it's one of the biggest things that I think helped me grow my business when I was in that kind of emerging leader phase myself. So we're so excited to bring it back. It's still ongoing we're doing it in March. But again, the seeds were planted in February, and that was just something that was really exciting, was to kind of kick that off for our team in February. We're doing it in March, if that makes sense. Then the other thing that we decided to do is we decided to bring the Replicate Your Results course, which is a course that I actually launched when I was trying to monetize this podcast. And so you may have heard me talk about it. And technically at the moment it's well, I guess there's like a waiting list. Anyway, I don't want to monetize my podcast, but if there's a waiting list, I am very soon going to be opening that up really to anybody for free. So if you want to go to replicateyourresults.com and get on that waiting list, if you're not on my Seint team and you're not participating in Replicate Your Results for my team, then you're welcome to hop on that waiting list, and I'll let you know. You'll only have like a month or so to do it, unfortunately, because soon I will be letting my Kajabi account that is tied to go. But be on the lookout for that. I'm getting around to it. It's on the list. But Replicate Your Results is essentially taking everything in my brain and Sarah's brain that we've learned from our coaches, from the books that we've read, from the things that we've seen to work not only in our business, but the principles that we've seen work in other leaders on our teams and other teams as well, and drilling it down into a very consumable weekly format. And so we announced and rolled that out to our leaders, the ones that are having results themselves, they've kind of reached that first tier of that foundation leadership rank of Artist 3 at least. They've built their team to around 10-ish or more. And honestly, we have some of our top leaders on our teams who are getting just as much out of it, by really just kind of going back to basics again with those principles that worked. And we invited them to be a part of it. And they're joining us on Zoom. That will take place. It is taking place in March and in April. So of course, I'll be able to share, more results in the renewal recaps to come. But the big February win is that we rolled this out to the teams. And this was our way to really serve those that want to do this business, that are, actively working their business, because we did make a requirement that they had to be active in February in order to be a part of the Follow the Yellow Brick Road training. And so that was something that I know was like slightly controversial, but at the same time, this is something that we want to do again and again in our business. And so I can't believe I'm saying this out loud because I don't even think I've said it to Sarah, but it's actually something I'm praying about potentially even taking to the whole company, because I really do think that this could be something powerful to bring to all of Seint. So huge win. That's the first win. And wow, that took me a minute to go over it, but it's exciting. So the second win, and this is another huge win, is I hosted a retreat it originally intended to be my directs retreat, but I wound up including leaders from all, really anywhere on the smaller legs of my team. And I coupled it with our virtual reunion, which is our conference every 9 months that Seint hosts virtually. But I have found since actually the very first one of my leaders, Colleen, that I talk about all the time, the very first virtual reunion, which I think was actually due to COVID, we got together in Myrtle Beach, and it was an amazing, amazing success. Honestly, I wouldn't say definitely not as powerful as the big reunions, but a very close second. And so I wanted to replicate it. Colleen actually did a retreat as well, because hello, it's like, if it works, keep doing it. And we kind of teamed up. We watched it together. But it was just really special because I know this is something that works. I actually did an episode not that long ago on the power of a team retreat after Sarah's Dollywood retreat. So I'll link to that episode 99 in the show notes if you want to, better understand the power of what a retreat can do in your business. But it was just really special and a huge win for me to be able to do that for some emerging leaders on my team, because I did encourage my top leaders, or the ones who have big teams of their own, to do their own. And many did, actually most did, which is really, really exciting. So for that reason, the gals that were with me in North Carolina for my retreat were actually, most of them were Artist 2s. I think the highest rank was an Artist 3, which again is that foundation rank. And it was super cool because this is the next generation of top leaders, and to get to know them, for them to get to meet each other and to be able to pour in with them and connect them with Colleen's team, and be able to, be inspired by the messages and the announcements, the exciting announcements like global expansion that our president Ben announced at the reunion. It was just really, really, really special. So I'm going to count that as a huge win. But again, it's more of a sowing opportunity of planting the seeds. And I've actually already, as we'll see, seen some of the fruit of that in some of the leaders that were there. So more to come on that in a second. And then finally, the third win, because I always do three wins, 3 opportunities for growth, 3 recognition, and there's like 6 KPIs or something like that. But the last win is a personal win for me, and I knocked out another month. So this is my second month of qualifications for Seint's reward trip. So we launched, that was the other thing that they launched, and it was kind of a surprise. Well, yeah, I'd say it's a surprise, because the last 3 or 4 years, we have had our reward trip be where it's like a 5-month qualification, 5 or 6 months, that starts in May and ends in November. And so we were all expecting it to be that. But Seint announced not only a new structure for our reward trips, which are amazing. In the fall, they're going to be a Mediterranean cruise, and that'll be every fall. And then there's one in the spring that's going to be Maui. Oh my gosh, Hawaii. I can't even handle it. And so they announced both of those. And the one this fall is kind of a bonus trip. And so I did earn, and will be attending actually in like a week and 10 days or so. I am going to be attending our last earned rewards trip in Mexico. So I'll report back on that. And I'm taking my beautiful sister-in-law. So that'll probably be a fun win for March. But I want to count it as a huge win that I was able to knock out a minimum qualification for myself. So this is my second month towards qualifying for that trip. The other thing that was really exciting about the rewards trips, and I know a lot of listeners, sometimes you might be a top seller, sometimes you are just getting going in your business, but they also announced some I don't want to call them lower level, but entry level rewards that are totally doable. So I won't go into those here, but look to Seint Corporate if you're a Seint artist, and really know that that is a great starting point for you to go for, and to track in your personal business is to go for at least one of the level 1 or level 2 rewards. And then, I again am working towards level 3 rewards. So that's my personal win for February. All right, let's move into the opportunities for growth. So this is where I get really realistic about kind of some of the things where we need to work on. So by looking at the numbers and just by feeling the overall feelings. And so opportunities for growth, number 1 is sales per teamie are down a little bit. So what that is, again, that's a KPI that I'll get to in a second, but that's if you take the total team size, or you take the total team sales and you divide it by the total team size. And it was down from what it has been, really honestly, in the last, I would say years. It was not a great sales per teamie. But that was also tied to less people getting active. And so, which, by the way, I think is something I want to start incorporating into KPIs. I realize it's not on my list, so I'll get that number before I get there, and we'll hit pause. But I know that it's less people got active this month that are in February than is typical. And so because less people got active, that obviously had a lot of lower numbers that were kind of skewing the overall sales per teamie numbers a little bit. So I'll talk more about that in the KPI, but that's definitely an opportunity for growth, is just helping the existing artists on our teams sell more. So that's the first opportunity. The second opportunity is overall team sales were down to last February by 19%. So that's not amazing for sure. It's not horrible, could be worse, but tracking a year over year growth versus a month to month, back to back, which, months go like this in any business model. But when you have any business, whether it's a traditional retail business or any business model, tracking year to year, month to month growth is a smart metric. And so I was a little sad to see that ours was down 19%. And I'm thinking that's probably a similar number to what, other teams might be experiencing. It might even be more for some, because I've got some fired up, growth happening in certain hotspots. And I think one of the reasons that it was down is because we have had 3 months back to back of promotions with the artist program in January. December, we had the Boxing Day sales. And then November, of course, we have Black Friday. But we have that every year. Those 3 things every year. So yeah, I think that something's kind of up a little bit. I think morale is a little bit lower, and I think that's tied to the shakeout that we've been talking about. So opportunities for growth is definitely, we'd love to get those numbers back up. So we'll see. March had some good stuff, so we'll see what that looks like. And then the other opportunity for growth, which is tied to the first one, is the percentage of gals that got active in their business was down. So that's, again, something that we need to work on. We actually just trained on this in Replicate Your Results, that it used to be normal that about 40% for a team size of about 50. So if you have 50 people, about 40% would get active. We're seeing that's probably more like 30% right now. And for me, let me see. Yeah, I didn't do that number, but I will look it up, and I think it's probably around 20%. And so I don't love that number. I would love for it to be more like the 30, if not 40% of the artists that are actually actively working their business. So that's a big opportunity for growth. So let's move on to the recognition, shall we? So recognition, I am so excited to shout out these gals, you guys. So much goodness happened, even in a month that was not so amazing when it comes to the actual numbers, right? But the first gal I want to shout out, her name is Kathrine Sorrell, and she, first of all, drove across the country 6+ hours from Alabama to North Carolina with her Seint mama to meet a bunch of random people, including myself, that she'd never really connected with before, to attend my retreat and to attend the Love Virtual Reunion. And Kathrine at the time, she was getting active here and there. She loved the makeup, loved the business, obviously loved it enough to build up the courage. And I think she'd brought on maybe one teamie before attending the reunion or the virtual reunion. But you guys, not only did she drive across the country, but girlfriend got fired up and literally got to work on the ride home back to Alabama, and enrolled 2 teamies, you guys, 2 teamies in February. I think she's even enrolled a third one since then, but she was one of the top enrollers, not only on my team, but in the entire company. She was recognized as one of the top enrollers on our Seint corporate email, which is so stinking exciting for her. And spoiler alert, this is kind of a March win because it happened in March. But you guys, she ranked to Artist 3. She hit the foundation rank in her business like just a couple of weeks after enrolling these new artists, which means not only is she helping them start their business, but she's starting to, again, reap the results of going to this retreat. And so I could not be more proud of Kathrine, because that leap of faith, really, and step of courage of attending that retreat to get inspired and fired up has really led to her taking action in her business. And now she is already starting to see that result. And I'm just so proud of her. And I'm proud of her mentor, Kim, who is an amazing leader. She also has an amazing Seint grandma, Amy. And so I can't wait to see Kathrine and Kim and Amy. They are all perfect examples of future top leaders within this company. And Kathrine, you got this, girl. Congratulations on an amazing February. So the next gal that I want to shout out is Kimberly Weimer. So Kim, we call her, but anyway, she goes by Kimberly in the back office, but she is also known on Instagram as Kim Light Up Your Face. And you guys, she had, I don't know if it was a personal record. I meant to reach out and ask her before I did this, but she had an amazing personal sales month. She sold over $100,000 worth of makeup, which she may or may not have done before. But regardless, in a month like February where things were down, for her to be up and crushing it in her personal sales is, first of all, really amazing. And I know can be intimidating if you are like, I'm just trying to sell $1,000 over here. But still, it's worth recognizing because that's amazing. But she, in addition to that, she got paid at her high rank of Artist 6, which also was really difficult to do in a down month where less people are getting active, right? And even the fact, like, Kim is a perfect example of someone who really leverages systems. She's, she is an online influencer, obviously. She has really strong personal sales, but to get paid at the level, Artist 6 level, you've got to be able to like help other people win too, which can be so hard to do as an online influencer, as I've talked about countlessly on this podcast. So I'm so proud of Kim that she is doing that. And actually, 2 examples of that is she had not 1, but 2, at least, Artist 3s ranked, or girls ranked to Artist 3 on her team in February. So she is getting those foundation rank level, artists going. Both of them are training or have trained in the Follow the Yellow Brick Road training that we did because of their, their success. Both of them joined at the end of last year and are already ranking and growing, which is so stinking exciting. And that's a testament to not just Kim's leadership, but the leadership of their mentors, of the gals that, that are all on her team. But I just wanted to shout out Kim, because to have 3 huge wins like that with strongest, personal sales, paid at high rank, and helping emerging leaders on her team that really don't necessarily, well, they probably did play an impact in her getting paid at rank, but she's doing all the things and deserves all the shout out. So congrats, Kim. You are amazing. So, and then lastly, my girl, Drew Goddard. I think I've talked about her before. She might have gotten a shout out on here already, but she deserves another shout out because I know January was a discouraging month for her. She's had I think she was maybe the one I shouted out from last year, but she kind of was like a little discouraged, I think, in January, but she channeled, well, first of all, I think because she realized she had had such a great year in, last year, she was able to kind of live in the gain from how far she's come. And I think that little bit of encouragement of the recognition from that helped her to see the good that is definitely there. She's amazing. And she got to work in February and had one of her best months. It was not her personal record, but it was one of her best months yet. And she was the #1 selling direct artist of mine, which I was so excited for her. So well deserving, Drew. You are definitely amazing and continuing to crush it. And another example of a future top leader here at Seint. So yay. Congrats to Kathrine and Kim and Drew. You girls are crushing it. And it was an amazing February for y'all. So congrats. All right, let's finally move on to the KPIs, which stands for Key Performance Indicators. And so the first one is the total team sales. So our total team sales for February were 1.46 million, which, I mean, hey, like that's amazing, right? Like it's really cool that, our team can sell almost $1.5 million, in a month that's not, not amazing. However, that was 19% down from last February, which let me see what last February was. So last February's was 1.79, 1.79. So yeah, 19% down. Yeah, anyway, it is what it is, but 1.5 million, that's or 1.46 million. So me personally, because in the KPIs, I do the team as a whole, and then I also share my personal because again, I try to lead by example and be transparent, and it helps to hold me accountable as well. So my personal sales were 3,086, which is less than my average. If I want to say it's like 4,500, let's see, 4,556 is my average month. So it's definitely less than my average. However, it was 5% higher than last February. So again, February is usually a down month, for anyone's sales. So if you had a down month in February from your typical sales volume, know that that's normal because we had 3 back-to-back months of promotions, right? And instead of comparing it, if you've been here for a minute, instead of comparing it to your January numbers or even your March numbers, which I'm already even past that, already in March for these numbers because one, we had a promotion, but 2, because it's time for people to reorder, right? So know that you are still going to have cyclical down months in your business. So once again, compare it to February's prior in order to really get an accurate snapshot of living in the gain of how far you're coming and growing, okay? So I was actually proud of that number. And again, it was enough to knock out a qualification month for me to earn the trip. So I was like, all right, I'll take it. All right, next KPI is total number of distributors or artists if you're within Seint. So for me, it was 4,541, so 4,541, which is 2% higher than February of last year. So that's actually not that bad either, considering that in this last summer, was it last summer? Let me just double check this. Last summer Seint, it's a long story, but they kind of, gals who were in the back office as suspended and weren't paying their back office fees, and so they weren't intending to be an artist, they kind of cleared out those gals from the total number of artists. And so let me see what that was. Okay, so yes, we had 465 artists that dropped out of the back office last summer. And so we're 2% higher from last year, even though we lost a ton in there. So we've kind of made up the ground for those lost ladies and then some. So again, maybe not amazing, but I'll take it, right? And then again, if you listen to my episode with Brett Blake, he says to really focus on growing, almost kind of wiping out the COVID years of growth. And so when I look at that, gosh, I mean, our team has doubled since the COVID height. So I definitely think it's not it's a sign of something horrible happening. It's just the reality of the numbers. So total new teamies for myself, I didn't have any, but that's okay. I definitely have some dream teamies that I'm talking to and working with right now. And as you probably heard me say, I don't like to enroll in mass. So I'm very intentional about who I do bring on, and I really want to be able to focus my time and energy in helping them. So no new teamies for myself, but that's all right. All right. The next KPI is total number of new artists. So we had 102 artists join our team in February, which I was thrilled with. That is 7% higher than last February. So that means that we actually are enrolling more. That means there's excitement. I think a lot of the new gals that have joined, they saw how easy it is with our new systems, and they're like, okay, I got this. Let's do this. So the fact that we had 102 gals join is awesome. So again, no new artists for me. Now I've talked about retention on January's recap episode. I did have 76 artists quit, which is about 1.7% of the team. And so not ideal, but here's the thing. I would rather see artists that, are no longer engaged or, fired up about this business if they don't want to take it as seriously as I do or as seriously as the ones who are actively working. It's okay. This business isn't for everybody. And I don't get discouraged when I see those numbers drop off. If anything, it's going to make the percentage active numbers and things like that stronger, because there's not going to be girls who are paying a back office fee who aren't doing anything to bring in the sales to cover that. So I'd rather them drop off. But 76 quit. So but 102 joined, which is great. So rank advancements, we had exactly 102. So I was excited for that. I think that's always a really good sign when those two numbers are matching up. So the number of people who are joining versus the number of people who are rank advancing. So I was happy with that. 102 is great. So I also wanted to track like if any of my my directs rank advancements, and I didn't have any rank advancements from my directs, but some are like literally this close, which is great. Okay, and the next one is average sales per teamie. So we talked about this as being one of the opportunities for growth. So the actual number was if you take our total TGCV, which is the total group commissionable volume, and then divide that by the number of teamies, you get 253 CV. So that's not really an amazing number. I'm not super happy with that. It's basically like someone, the average teamie got active. Essentially, that's enough to have them get active in their business. That is still the 20% commission bracket. I like to see it more in like the 25% or the 30% commission bracket, which it's about $366 in US sales, which is $73 in their pocket on average. Okay. So, I mean, that's not bad. That's really not bad. It's $73 again is more than enough to cover their back office fee. And it's, gas money. It's something, right? In Canada, it was $101.20 for the Canadian commission from that. So not great. I definitely think it's something that could be improved, but it is what it is, right? Okay. So the next one is I think this is a new one. I don't think I talked about this in January, but it is something that I think is important to track. And that is like if you don't focus on the people who aren't actively working their business, meaning they didn't get active in their business in February, and you just focus on the ones that are actively working their business, the numbers look crazy different. So the sales per active teamie is over $1,500. Okay, that's insane, you guys. That means that if you just want to instead of sitting on the couch, watching what's happening, if you get in the game and you focus on getting active in your business, or maybe go for one of those reward trips qualifications, like a lot of the girls in this category are doing, watch what happens. The average of over $1,500, that puts it in the commission bracket to the 30% commission bracket, which is $500 on average for the active teamies working on my team, $500 in their pocket. That's amazing, you guys. It's incredible. And so that is very encouraging to me, is that the ones who actually are actively working their business, which again, if you're not going to do that, I'd almost rather you quit. Is that bad to say? Or, maybe hang on until that you will want to get active, because I know that if you actively go all in, clearly the results are worth it. Okay. So sales per active teamie over 1,500. That's an average of $500 in sales or in commissions for those teamies. So congratulations. So, and then finally, the percentage active is something that I said I wanted to include on this. So let me grab that real quick. Oh yeah. Oh, it's 19.3%. Oh, you guys, I don't like that. That's not a good number. I don't like 19%. We definitely need to do better than that. Huge opportunity for growth for sure. But hey, it's encouraging for you if maybe you feel like no one on your team is doing anything. That means 80% of my team did not get active. But the 20% who did is who I'm choosing to focus my energy on, because I know, again, those ones, that 20%, they crushed it last month. They had a fantastic February. So I'm just saying we're going to work on that a little bit, but we got this, friends. Okay. So the last number is the total number of customers. So this you can find if you're a Seint artist in your back office by just going to your customer list. And mine is 1,877, so 1,877, which means I had 6 new customers in February. So these were primarily from referrals from existing happy customers and YouTube. So in February, that was kind of where I found my new business, which I get led to an average month for me. Well, maybe not average, but an average February. How about that? So my friends, those are my KPIs, which wraps up the work acronym for my February. And I hope that me sharing these numbers can, give you some insight into what the business actually looks like and kind of where we are. And I can't wait to see the, reaping from all of the sowing that happened in February. And I can't wait to keep reporting all of these numbers. So thanks again for watching and listening, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.